Hi guys, welcome back. So here we're back on a nice country road, and again a really nice stretch that I like, quite a windy stretch of roads just here on the left hand side, which I think shows the dynamic abilities of this car, which really is very impressive. Really does feel very, very light on its feet. Really good, really powerful, really pushing through very nicely. Oh, let's slow down here. There we go. Yeah, the pickup there's no lag. It's immediate. It's instant. It's there when you want it, and the steering is just absolutely pin sharp. Really brilliant. And it really fills you with confidence. And that perhaps is the benefit for the firm suspension that I spoke about a little earlier. That there's just no roll for such a large car. You feel really really connected with the road. I'm afraid the speed limit changes here, so I'm not going to be able to press on much longer, but hopefully that, short though it was enough to give you a flavour of the dynamic capabilities of this car. Back to 30, there we go. So really this car, I think it's really its home anywhere, which is great. The breadth of ability is superb, and I think that's why SUVs have been so popular and why the X5 in particular has been such an amazing success for BMW. That really there's very little it can't do. It is a car that is at home anywhere. If you are in the town, it's a great urban car. It has the prestige of a upper range BMW. It has the luxury of a 7 Series. It has the driving dynamics virtually of a 5 Series, just elevated, and they're just such good all-rounders, really. Great disappointment after driving smaller, more sprightly cars, but in much. Comfortable distance. You can feel those. Then there's always now has air suspension as standard, which I can imagine is quite a nice feature. Although it'll be interesting to see whether it's as good in the twisty roads. But if BMW can keep the trademark sharpness, both in terms of the steering and in terms of the suspension setup, then I think really they will certainly be onto a winner there. sorry, a it's always nice to have a room. I do have to admit that I really am a BMW loyalist. I think they're fantastic. We have a child. My mother had a BMW, and at the age of about 6 months, I was in the driver's seat trying to reach for the keys. And I must admit, it's a brand that never really ceases to impress me. To my mind, they make the best cars. They strike the balance beautifully between comfort and dynamic abilities. I think Mercedes are very highly regarded, but to my mind BMW are better. I know that may be a controversial thing to say, but that's my view. Strike the balance perfectly. The design are a period with Chris Bangles where the designs were quite controversial. The BMWs of the 90s I think have aged really well, and if you look at the BMW 5 Series from the mid to late 1990s, that really is almost a timeless design. It still looks beautiful, and the first generation X5 drew on that, and they then facelifted the X5 on that first generation in around about 2004, 2005, and again, to me, that still looks it's a great looking car, really beautiful exterior design. Does it look a little bit too large? But actually I think the view I have is that it looks very commanding, very aggressive, very imposing. It has flared arches, and in my view it has a great deal of presence. So I really like the look of this car. The generation that came after it, the third generation, I've never been a fan of, and I think a lot of reviewers have taken that view. One reviewer joked that he wasn't going to bother washing it for the review because he didn't think it looked very good anyway. Whilst that might be an interesting approach for a reviewer to take, I agree, I don't think they got it right. It was actually a larger car than this, and yet you would think it was smaller, and I think that the later X5s have become more difficult to distinguish from the X3, but if you look at this second generation, it is very clearly distinguishable from the contemporaneous BMW X3. You knew this was an X5, you knew this was the top of the line. Of course, now they have the X7, and so it may well be that actually the X5, it's become more of a sort of E-Class or 5 Series alternative, the upper executive, but not quite the top. When this car was new, this was the top SUV that BMW provided, and even for Rolls-Royce, the Cullinan now exists. It didn't back then. So the very best that the BMW group had was the X5, and I think really that's why they allowed this to be so plush. From the outside, it looks like the top dog, and from the inside, it's almost like a Rolls-Royce. It's beautiful, the materials and the design. And I feel that perhaps as they brought out the X7, there will be a need to differentiate, to justify why someone would go and spend the extra 20,000 or whatever it is for an X7, but not so on this. And the other thing that BMW do so well is the infotainment, the iDrive system. This car's now quite a few years old, and it's still, it doesn't feel antiquated. When you go back and look at some of the early systems, so even from, say, an S-Class from the early to mid-2000s, it feels primitive. The resolution is poor, there's lots of lag, the functionality is very limited, but this car still feels quite contemporary. You can come off your iPhone, which of course we now spend so much time on, and you don't feel like you're going back into the dark ages. You feel like you're dealing with an intuitive and functional system, and that really is a credit to BMW for investing. And to my view, they're still the class leaders for infotainment, which in this digital age is becoming an ever-increasing part of the driving experience. But I think the crux really is the driving experience, and to me BMW, they still make the ultimate driving machine. Perfect blend of comfort and dynamics. I, as you know, have a Porsche, and so you'd think I'd get out of that into this and say, what a tank, you know, and I don't. Actually, the steering is really good on this, and it's, you know, I still very much enjoy driving it. Here we've got an older generation 3 Series with the hood down, and I think it reinforces my point that, you know, that car is now very old, and you would expect it to look very long in the tooth, but it doesn't. It looks really nice. Okay, and there you go. You do feel the width of it when you're going through narrow spaces like that, but actually I think when you've got the addition of the cameras, actually it's not a problem at all, really. But you can now feel these bumps, you know, where you get into the uneven, lesser roads like residential streets. That's where you start to feel the compromise. And then we've got a beautiful Z4, again a lovely design. And the 3 Series 2 is just really, it's an iconic car, the benchmark really for handling on an executive saloon. And they've brought out their latest generation, and it's a car I'd love to drive. It looks really impressive, the technology on it, but also I think it looks beautiful. Well guys, this is where I leave you. Thank you very much for coming on my inaugural live 360 VR broadcast, my first live 360 review. I hope you enjoyed it. We had a few teething difficulties where we lost signal, but I guess that's to be expected when you're live streaming from a car. But I hope you enjoyed it, and look forward to receiving your comments in the section below. And any questions about this car, please let me know, and I'll do my best to answer. But also any requests for any future reviews you'd like me to do. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.